Thank you very much. It's a very impressive lecture. Actually, I'm convinced that there's no evolution of any species. As you mentioned in Quran, that Allah says, be, then there it is. And I'm just curious about two questions. I want to know first is that what is the exact time that human being appeared? I mean, you just said every species suddenly appeared. And I just want to know what exact time that human being was created by Allah. And the number two question is, why Allah created the human being? What's the meaning of life? Thank you.
About the creation of the time of the human beings, there is no information given in the Quran. But we know the first human being was created was Adam alayhi salam. Adam, peace be upon him, was the first human being created by Allah. Now, if you look at the fossil record, the only way to know when humans was created is through fossil record. According to Darwin's claims, let me show you one thing actually. I want to speak with fossils. Well, Darwinists say, remember I started with Australopithecus, they claim Australopithecus is the ancestor of man. And then they say there is Homo erectus, Homo habilis, and Homo sapiens. For Homo sapiens, they say the modern man. They say Homo habilis is something somewhere between the human beings and the apes, and Australopithecus is the ancestor of man. Now look at this skull. This is Australopithecus, and Homo erectus is a different extinct human race. Who says that? All the famous paleoanthropologists of the world, such as Tim White, Donald Johanson, because the structure of the skull and the skeleton is in parallel, exactly the same with the modern man. So we know today it is an extinct human race. We also know the same anthropologists, paleoanthropologists, and they are all Darwinists. They also claim, they also say, admit, Homo habilis is like Australopithecus, an ape. Now look at these fossils. Do you see any similarity? This is obviously an ape. Very small skull, 450 cc's, the closeness of the eyes, the prominence of the jaw, upper jaw and lower jaw, and the sharp teeth, exactly in parallel with today's chimpanzees. And also the semicircular canals, or the diameter of the hypoglossal nerve, etc. Now, I will give you another very powerful evidence. Now, look at the times they lived. This is, evolutionists say, scientists say, Homo erectus lived between 1.6 and 1.8 million years. Okay? This is Australopithecus, they say 1 million and 4 million years. And Homo habilis, they say 1.7 and 1.9 million years. Do you see any overlap? Yes, there is an overlap. That means they lived at the same period. In fact, in Africa, at the same geological layer, they found Homo habilis, Australopithecus, Homo sapiens skulls at the same layer. So where is the evolution? They lived at the same time. Apes and humans lived at the same time. That's it. There is no evolution. Now, going back to your question, what could be the time for creation of the human beings? This information is not given in the Quran. But if you refer to the scientific evidences, we are not sure about that. Evolutionists say more than 1 million years, maybe less than 1 million years. Maybe, Allah knows the truth, a couple of 100,000 years. But the bottom line is, Allah created humans as humans. For example, Homo erectus is exactly the same of today's, your skulls or my skull, for example. No difference, just an extinct human race. The bottom line is, Adam alayhi salam was created by Allah. All of a sudden, it is word be, because Allah gives this information in the Quran. I shape mud, Allah says, like a human being, and I breathe, with the word be, created Adam alayhi salam, breathed my soul into Adam alayhi salam. Humans are the living beings with soul. That makes us very different from the animals. And the bottom line is, Allah created Adam alayhi salam just like us. How do we know that? We know from the fossil evidence, and we know this from the genetics. Because the genetics tells us, that's the major branch of science, which tells about the genetic information, the passing of genetic information. there is no mechanism which can add new genetic information to the living beings. There is only copying mechanisms created in the cell. DNA is being copied by the proteins which are encoded in the DNA, but exactly the same information is being copied and passed from generation to generation. The cause of individual variation, individual difference, you are different than these people are different than one, and then these are different than me, and I am different than Homo erectus, because of different combination of already existing genetic information. That means Adam a.s. and his wife had a genetic information, and different combinations of these genetic information generated all this individual variation in different human races. But we do not see every day a new human race, because there is a limit to the variations, because there is a limit to different combination of the genetic information. But again, the mechanism which exists in the living beings is only through copying, like taking a photocopy of a book. If you copy a book, you get this information, exactly the same information. You can mix up the information, generate new books, but this information has been existing from the very beginning. There is no new information, new genes. That is the reason why Richard Dawkins cannot give a single example. He knows better than anybody else. There is no mechanism which can generate new genes, new proteins, new organs, or brand new species. And the second question was? What was the second question?
The purpose of creation.
Okay. The purpose of creation, we can only know this from the Quran, because Quran is the revelation of Allah. Allah is the creator of everything. And Allah created everything for a purpose. For example, if you look around scientifically, there is atmosphere, there is oxygen pressure, 21%. Why? To make humans to be alive. The amount of gravity, if it would be slightly different, the gravity, there would be no life. There are 4 basic forces: strong nuclear force, weak nuclear force, gravity, and electromagnetism. If there would be slightest difference, 1 in a billion, in a billion, in a billion, in any of these forces, there would be no life. Our Earth rotates around the sun on a very specific orbit. And this is the orbit. Just to make it, do you use miles or kilometer here? Kilometer. In every 28 kilometers, huge Earth. Do you know the mass of the Earth? What the mass of the Earth is? 10 to the power 24 tons, which is, I don't know the number, but 12 zeros make trillion. This is the number with 24 zeros. Huge Earth rotates around the sun since 4.6 billion years on an orbit, which deviates from a straight line every 28 kilometers distance. The huge Earth, and it rotates around itself also, deviates from a straight line only 2.8 millimeters. 2.8 millimeters in 28 kilometers since 4.6 billion years. And scientists say, if Earth would deviate 3 millimeters or 2.6 millimeters, either it would go away into the space or dive into the sun, and there would be no life. Now, the entire system, the sun, the Earth, and our galaxy, we are moving every hour 900,000 kilometers. Now, what time is it now? It's, say, 8 o'clock, okay? At 7 o'clock, we were 900,000 kilometers away from this point. Do you see anything? No. 900,000 kilometers, we're moving in the space, and Earth is rotating around the sun, which deviates every 28 kilometers, only 2.8 kilometers. And who is controlling that? And why is that? Because otherwise there will be no life. So that means everything has a purpose. And of course that means humans, the creation of humans must have a purpose. And Allah explains that in the Quran. Allah says in one verse, I seek refuge in Allah from Makir Satan. I created man and jinn to worship me alone, Allah says. The purpose of this creation, of this short and transitory life, is Allah tests everybody. But Allah knows what's going to happen, because Allah created Allah created our destiny, the infinite life, as a single fraction of an infinite fraction of a single moment, and finished it. And I will explain you what that means. So we are being tested because we don't know where we're going to be in the hereafter. But the purpose of this life is Allah to separate the sincere believers and non-sincere disbelievers. That's the only purpose of this life. And this life is created to be tested. But the test is for us because we don't know. There is a future for us and there's a past for us because time is created for us as a level of perception. Now, I must explain you what that means actually. Time is, this is a noise. This is another noise. By making comparison with our memories, we get the perception of time is passing. But this is a perception. There is no absolute time. This is a scientific fact from for example, the relativity of the Einstein. He described this, and this is also described in the Quran. Time means making a comparison with the information, of the new information, with the information we have in the memories. Such as, for example, everybody has the information in the memory. We have memories of our childhood, primary school, middle school, high school, before coming here, entering through this door, and sitting over here, and listening to my talk, and having this information. By hearing this noise, you make a comparison with the previous memories, and you get the perception of time is passing. Now let's think this way. If somebody's memory is wiped out, we don't have any memories, and we cannot keep anything in our memory, okay? And then you get new information, but you cannot keep any information in the memory, then you lose the perception of time completely. So time is perception, and Allah is beyond that. Allah created time for the human beings at the level of perception, but there is no time for Allah. And Allah created the infinite life as the infinite fraction of a single moment, our infinite hereafter, and finished it. So Allah knows whether we are in the paradise or in the hell. But Allah is showing through this worldly life where we are in the hereafter. And that is the purpose of this life. Any other question?